So we're at MAGFest 2020 talking to Ben Briggs of Tiny Waves. Ben Briggs, you want to give us a little background of your life in music?
Yeah, when I was like, I'd say 7 years old, I think my parents picked up on the fact that I was very interested in music, and they bought me like a simple, crappy little Casio keyboard. And one of my earliest memories with that instrument was learning the Legend of Zelda theme, learning to play it by ear in the key of C major. I took a few piano lessons and very quickly didn't like being told how to play or told what to play. So I quit piano lessons very early on. I think I only took them for like a year or less. And then I spent most of my time on the keyboard just, learning to play video game music by ear. And then, at that point I was still like in elementary and middle school, and eventually I moved on to playing the trumpet and stuff like that, but playing guitar and learning to sing. But it kind of, video game music was always a through line. Video game music was the reason that I was interested in music at all. I think the first moment that I noticed that music itself was a thing that existed outside of being the background of some other content was it was Kirby's Dream Land on the Game Boy. I had like the old gray like giant DMG like brick Game Boy, and the specific song was King Dedede's theme, which is like the music when you get to the end of the game. It's a very simple, like quick and easy game, but for a little kid it was quite challenging. So it was kind of a big deal when I made it to the end of the game as like an 8 or 10-year-old. And the music for King Dedede's theme is, it's very driving bass line, dun 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 dun, and it like and it has just like this really like obstinate, like this stubborn blues scale over the top of all the chords. And like, I say stubborn because it really just is a blues scale on top of like a very simple descending like major key chord progression. But something about that, I figured out how to find the sound test so I could listen to that song, and I would just run the batteries down on my Game Boy and listen to the King Dedede's theme just like in my ear. Like I didn't even have headphones, and my mom made fun of me. She's like, you're wasting the batteries on your Game Boy. But there was a distinct period where like that song and I had like a very intimate relationship where, I'm a little kid in the backseat of a car on a road trip, and I would, instead of playing the game, I would spend 20, 30 minutes just listening to this song on loop and listening to the other songs. And that I had never really recognized that music was its own thing outside of the context of being the background for another piece of media. But something about King Dedede's theme on Kirby's Dream Land, that's what separated it for me, and I realized music can be content itself.
So then what'd you start doing like to be more active in music?
Like I said, my parents were gracious enough to buy me my first instrument, and then I was in band in school. But I think by the time I was 13 or 14, I was searching up video game music on Napster, and like, at the height of like peer-to-peer music piracy, I was discovering remixes from Overclocked Remix that had been uploaded to Napster and Kazaa, and like I think WinMX was one of them. And so through those MP3 files that I was downloading off of these peer-to-peer services, I naturally discovered Overclocked Remix online. And then I would say probably about a year later, like I said, 13, 14 years old, that's when I joined the forums, and very quickly just wanted to get involved. I downloaded FL Studio, and I was like arranging MIDI files, and I was trying really hard to like, once I realized that video game remixes existed and that video game arrangements and electronic remixes of video game music were a thing, it was like, it just immediately clicked, like this is what I want to do with my musical talent. And I think within within a year, I had ended up posted on OCR, but yeah, and then so on and so forth for the rest of my career. Things got more and more commercial and more professional, and then I started to carve out my own niche. But definitely started with with video game music itself, and then discovering Overclocked Remix.
So how'd you make the transition from hobbyist on OCR to professional?
Right around the time that Louder was becoming a thing. Louder was sort of the first company to spearhead. How do I want to describe what they were doing? They were streamlining the process for obtaining mechanical licenses for video game covers and just cover songs in general, because you were always able to purchase mechanical licenses and legally sell and license cover songs, but nobody in the video game arrangement scene was talking about it, and nobody really cared about it or knew about it, and certainly nobody wanted to go through the tedium of doing it. But Louder, around the time that I was coming to my first MAGFest, I think in 2012, is when Louder was on their initial thrust, their initial come up of hey, we're providing a service where we can legally license video game remixes, cover songs, and at that same time is when Game Chops was also starting to get the idea hey, maybe we can make music or make money on video game remixes. So me being at MAGFest 2012, 2013, was at the same time of the halcyon days of Louder and Game Chops. That is what sort of transitioned me, because I was already making money on my original music on Bandcamp, but that's what I just happened to kind of be right place, right time, meet the right people, and sort of get excited about it. I was very lucky to be at MAGFest physically in 2012 and 2013, and to be around Game Chops and Louder right when it was this idea of we're allowed to make music on, we're allowed to make money on this music, and it's not under the table, it's legal. So yeah, it was definitely with the rise of legally licensing remixes, and sort of again being here in this physical space at that time is what started the commercial side of things.
Okay, cool. So, and you talked about how OCR was a community that helped you sort of launch yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tiny Waves, right? So you made Tiny Waves to help other EDM artists in a similar way, right? Yeah,
so the Tiny Waves sort of is the logical conclusion of every influence of my career. So, I started from OC Remix, and I learned that video game remixes were a thing. I learned a lot about respecting the original composers and how to balance the composition of a remix. And then, once it became commercially viable, I learned that you're able to craft these things into a product. And then eventually I started Tiny Waves because I also wanted to do live events. I wanted to literally have a platform to put people on a stage and to sort of level the playing field, in the sense that if somebody comes to me and they have an excellent talent or an excellent track and an excellent attitude, but maybe they don't have any followers or they don't have any social media following, I wanted to be able to lift those people up. I wanted to be able to sort of locate the human beings that I felt were the best of the best, and the undiscovered people that were doing what I love to do, but better than I could ever do. And I figured, I've built a career out of making video game arrangements, and I've got a sizable amount of resources, and I have connections and all that, and I just thought, I want to create something bigger than myself. Tiny Waves came out of my career getting to the point where I felt comfortable, and then me immediately, perhaps too soon for my own wallet and mental health, wanting to create something larger than myself, to take my platform that I was standing on alone and turn it into a much bigger platform, a much more level playing field that I could lift up all of my friends and the talented people that I could discover in the future. And then obviously the live events that we do down in Orlando, those kind of went hand in hand with becoming a record label. And then, like I said, it was a natural progression and a natural endpoint of me getting to my career and not being satisfied with having it all to myself, and thinking about how do I spread this around. And I don't think I ever would have ended up working for someone else. I think I was always meant to just start my own thing, because I'm a bit of a control freak, and so when I want to direct that sort of very particular energy, I need to help people, but I also need to help people in my own way. So Tiny Waves was kind of always going to happen. It was just like a matter of like when I finally decided like I wanted to add blackjack and hookers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So like, how do you seek out collaborators, and how do you recommend other people reach out to you?
I mean, if people want to reach out to me, like if you're interested in like me personally and my music, you know, if you want to use it for a YouTube channel or your podcast or whatever, literally you can just Google Ben Briggs. I'm very easy to find. Like when it comes to using my music for your content, it's all pretty much all of it's Creative Commons, or at least Creative Commons enough in the sense that like I'm not going to send you a cease and desist. You know what I mean? So finding me personally is not hard. You can just Google Ben Briggs. You can email me. You can find my Bandcamp. But if you're trying to get involved with the community, with like the greater space that we're creating, you can just visit. You can find Tiny. They're both Googleable. You can Google Ben Briggs, or you can Google Tiny Waves. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. You can send us a DM on either of those at any point. You can email us at tinywavesbooking@gmail.com. You know, if you want to be involved in the community, just shoot us a DM, shoot us an email, ask us for a Discord invite. We'll get you into the Discord server. You can start meeting people. You can, you know, there's a workshop channel. There's just general channels for you to, you know, talk to people, and it's not difficult to get involved. It's just you do have to ask for the invite because it's invite only. So, you know, if you email tinywavesbooking@gmail.com, or you find us Tiny Waves on Facebook or Twitter. I mean, the logo looks like this. I've worked hard for us to be relatively easy to find online, but if anything that I'm talking about interests you, look us up, send us a DM, ask for that Discord invite, and we'd be happy to get you involved. You know, if you're located in, you know, Florida, or if you go to conventions, you know, keep an eye out for what events that we're doing on Facebook, and, you know, show up. If you want to come to one of our events, you're always welcome, and, you know, don't be afraid to introduce yourself to me or anybody that works for Tiny Waves. So
awesome. So what have you been doing at MAGFest, and what are you looking forward to doing?
What have I been doing at MAGFest? Well, it is currently day 2. My responsibilities were pretty light yesterday. We set up our merch table. We sold some merch yesterday, and then we kind of just relaxed. I caught up with a lot of old friends, you know, probably stayed up extremely way too late last night. But what I'm doing tonight is I am actually playing the DJ block on main stage. So I'll be sharing the stage with my good friend Kabuki, my good friend Funk Fiction, and the legendary Tokyo Machine, and then I'll be closing out the night tonight. I think I'm performing at like 2:20 in the morning, which at any other venue in any other context, that would be so unbelievably late. But at MAGFest, it's like, I mean, it's Friday night at MAGFest. Exactly, like 2:20 a.m. is like we're hitting that point at MAGFest on Friday, Saturday, where like everyone sort of like hive minds and coalesces into like a 48-hour continuous party. So I'm actually really, really grateful to have that, be able to close out the DJ block tonight on main stage. It's been a really long time since I've been able to be in front of that crowd, so I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm a little nervous for the first time in a long time. It's been a while since I've had butterflies before a show, so I'm looking forward to it. And then, you know, I'm gonna finish my set tonight. I'm gonna party with friends, and then tomorrow at the Pose nightclub, Tiny Waves and Party with Your Friends, we are doing a full takeover of the nightclub, starting at 5 p.m., going until 2 a.m. I'm booking, I think, like 22 of my closest friends and the most talented people I know. A lot of people that I wouldn't be able to book otherwise, I'm putting on that lineup. It's just like rapid fire, 30-minute long sets, just everybody going as hard as they can. And Pose is such a fun, exclusive sort of environment. So yeah, I'm playing main stage tonight, and tomorrow at Pose, we're just taking over the whole operation from 5 until 2.
Awesome, great. Well, thanks for talking.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
the rest of your MAGFest.